Hola, y seguimos celebrando. Nosotros celebramos el jazz todo el año, así que vamos a seguir de fiesta. Hoy vamos a tener un invitado de lujo en esta clase magistral. Vamos a tener a un excelente guitarrista y un educador de primera. Estas personas que le ponen gran pasión a lo que hacen y confían y creen mucho en la educación. Pero para eso vamos a traer a nuestro maestro, nuestro profesor de guitarra, el maestro Fernando Matina. Maestro Matina, ¿cómo está?
Saludos a todos. Espero que se encuentren todos bien.
Bueno, yo estoy bien y ahora que estás aquí, mejor. Así que...
Gracias, Fidel, profesor.
Ahora todo el peso es suyo, maestro.
Ok, gracias. Pues aquí le damos la bienvenida a todos los que están asistiendo a la clínica con el maestro Rodney Jones del Conservatorio de Música de Puerto Rico. Le damos las gracias al señor Jones por darnos la oportunidad de estar con él y aprender de toda su experiencia y su musicalidad, que es inmensa. Como es conocido, el señor Jones es un virtuoso de la guitarra. Ha trabajado con los grandes como Dizzy Gillespie, Jackie Byard, Chico Hamilton y Tommy Flanagan. Él tiene una experiencia inmensa como un educador de jazz también, enseñando en Juilliard y Manhattan School of Music. También tiene muchas grabaciones él como líder. Yo creo que vamos a pasar un buen tiempo y vamos a aprender mucho con la compañía de él. Well, we'd like to welcome Mr. Rodney Jones. Rodney, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to start by playing something.
Wow.
Okay, so here we go. Everybody hear me okay? Thumbs up. You hear me good? All right, cool. Well, I want to say what an honor and a pleasure it is to be here with you today, with you amazing students, amazing players, with the maestro Fernando Martina, one of the great guitar players of our time. We got Fidel, who's a genius percussionist, genius drummer, and an amazing music program, a world-class music program. I'm so glad to be here with you. I want to make sure that I answer your questions. Maybe I'll raise some questions, some things you haven't thought of. I'm going to speak slower so it's easy to understand, okay? So I want to answer your questions. I want you to ask your questions. You can ask your questions in Spanish. I understand Spanish okay, but I have some wonderful people that are going to translate, they're going to write the question in English so I can respond in English, and I want to make sure that I address your interests and concerns. So as we begin, we've got about 90 minutes for this to start. So you just heard me play, you know, and you heard how I play, and that's one example of how I play. But before I begin to share some things that are interesting to me that I think you'll like, based on what you heard, do you have any questions about what you just heard? You just heard me play for what, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, however long I played. Do you have any questions about that? How I did it, what I was thinking, what was the theory behind it? Because here's the thing. When I play for you, you're getting about 45 years of experience behind that. Now, that doesn't mean it's the greatest. It doesn't even mean it's the best, but it does mean that it's informed by a lot of stuff. It's informed by standing on the stage with Kenny Garrett and standing on the stage with Joe Henderson and standing on the stage with McCoy Tyner and playing with Elvin and playing with Roy Eldridge and playing with Count Basie and playing with Kenny Burrell and playing with Maceo Parker. And, you know, it's informed by lots of things. So I want to share these things because there's two types of learning, right? You have world lessons, which is what you learn by doing stuff, what you learn by playing with other people, by studying, by playing. And then there's word lessons, what you learn in the conservatory. So when you see A flat over, you know, you see C, you know, B flat over A flat, you could think of it as an A, you know, an A flat Lydian. That's word. But when you, world is So how about this? What do you think? There's only one rule of theory. Just so when you ask your questions, I only have one rule of theory, and this is the rule. If the second chord sounds good to you after the first chord, it's correct. Meaning how your heart feels, how your ears hear. If it sounds good to you, that's important to know. What sounds good to you? What I like, maybe you don't like. What you like, maybe. But if it sounds good to you, you can trust that feeling. And you want to grow and expand that. But you can start from it. So what are your questions? Based on my playing or anything I've said so far. Any questions for me? Just unmute yourself and ask the question. I see Rodrigo's getting brave.
Hello. Okay, I have a question regarding so impressive solo, by the way. I've seen that, as you said, you have like acquired a lot of jazz language from many musicians throughout the years. So my question is, we as guitarists, we have, I don't know, we want to do like this Achilles solo, for example. We want to do a very great solo. So I find it hard to build a solo that has like many choruses. I mean, you're supposed to play as long as you feel comfortable, but like I wish I could do like an up-tempo solo with many choruses, like 6 or 5 or 6. So I find it that very hard to like make it like build up. Maybe in the second or the third, I will just run out of ideas and I'm starting to feel kind of lost. So I don't know how to like end it. So I don't want the solo to be boring, to the audience, of course, and to myself, that I'm not just playing the scales or the patterns that I know. So like, what are your
So the
thoughts
question
about
is what?
How do you approach an up-tempo solo that is going to be like very long? Maybe,
Okay.
like,
All right, that's a great question. And you have asked the right person. I am the world record holder for the longest jazz solo ever played. I played I'll Remember April on Facebook for 1 hour and 59 minutes without stopping. So when you talk about a long solo, 3 or 4 courses, this is, I haven't even started. I haven't even warmed up. My first 15 minutes, I'm not even warmed up yet. I'm just, So you asked the right person. There's a couple of things. And you said something that I want to just correct for everybody here. You said, you want to play and want to be comfortable. You don't want to be comfortable. When you're uncomfortable is when you're growing. When you're not sure is when you have to keep going. You can never use the past as proof of the future. You have to play beyond what you know. And the only way you do that is by playing everything you know and then keep going. Now, what the process is pretty simple, but it requires what I call rinse and repeat, which means doing it over and over, because practice doesn't make perfect, but practice does make better. And it tends to make permanent. What you practice, you're going to play. So if you want to practice music, you must practice music. If you want to practice scales and exercises, then you will play those things. If you practice exercises and scales, when it's time to play songs, guess what you're going to play? Scales and exercises. If you practice language and music, when it's time to play, you will play language and music. Now, it doesn't mean that you should not play exercises and scales. You should. But you must make part of your practice routine. If you want to get comfortable playing long solos, you have to practice playing long solos. So every day when you practice, you say, I'm going to play for 15 minutes and I'm not going to stop. Maybe you start with 2 minutes. Then you build to 3 minutes. You build to 5 minutes. Here's a goal for you, Rodrigo. And I said this, I believe, the last time I was with you all. If you get 1% better a week, if you practice 1% more a week, just 1%, 1 year from today, you will be practicing 52% more. If you just do 1% a week, 1 year from today, you'll be practicing 52% more. If you learn one line a week, one beautiful line, one Charlie Parker line, one McCoy Tyner, one Coltrane, one Dizzy Gillespie, one whoever you love, a year from now, you will know 52 pieces of vocabulary you do not know right now. And that's one line per week, which is easy to do. One line, 52 things you would know. So it's the rinse and repeat. You want to practice playing long solos. You want to play till you run out of ideas and then keep going. You know, if you want to know, you want to jump off a cliff, you have to know where the cliff is. If you want to go beyond your boundaries, you have to find your boundaries. So you have to play till you say, I got nothing else, and play anyway. And gradually, like a rubber band, you stretch it a little more and a little more and a little more. And a year later is huge. You know, a year later, most students overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 3 years. They think, oh, if I do this a year from now, I'll be killing it. Well, maybe. But if you do this 3 years from now, you'll be one of the best there is. So you have to be willing. The answer is, when you hear me play these long solos, and I could still be playing the tune right now, you're hearing someone who sits in this room right where I'm talking to you and plays for hours. I do what I'm telling you. I practice what I preach. I sit here and I play a minor blues, and I run out of ideas, and I keep going. And if I need to get refreshed, I listen to John Coltrane. 5 minutes, I'm good again. Charlie Parker, 5 minutes, I'm good. If I want to play melodic, I listen to Wes Montgomery. I listen to Peter Bernstein play something beautiful. Say, oh, that gives me some ideas. Want to play intervals? I listen to McCoy. Listen to Mike Brecker. Get some ideas. And that's how you do that. That's the secret. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's really how I do it. Anything you want to do, you have to do more of. You have to practice to your limit and go beyond it. And you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. If you're willing to be uncomfortable, you're going to grow. Because there's no failure in music. There's no failure. Either you can do it or you learn. That's it. If you can't do it, that's not a failure. You just learn you can't do it. Now you keep trying till you can do it, and then it's a success. There's no failure in music. Answer your question?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rodney.
You're welcome. Anybody else got a question? Anybody have an answer? John, okay.
I have a question. It's while listening to your solo, I noticed that you connected like every line effortlessly. I just wanted to ask, what's your thought process while playing a solo, and what advice can you give us to learn how to connect all these lines?
Practice your behind off. Most students, I practice harder than most of my students. What's wrong with that? Oh, I connected effortlessly. Private practice leads to public performance. You think it's effortlessly. I see myself down here struggling, going like, oh my God, like everybody else. Like everybody else. But little by little, it gets better and better. You have to be patient with yourself, and you have to believe that you can do it. See, jazz, the technical part of jazz is like 4th grade math. It's not that hard. A 2-5, a 2-5-1, a 1-6-2-5. That's not the genius of jazz. The genius is in the feeling. The genius is in the choices. The genius is in the human soul coming out and touching the heart of the person listening. That's the genius. I have the same notes that Wes Montgomery had on his guitar. but I can't make it sound like that. I would love to make it sound like that. I'm stuck with having to be me. I have to be me. Wes had to be Wes. So the answer to that question is, to practice enough. Now, the other way to practice and connect things is to start with what I call small cells. And when you hear me connecting things, so I have exercises and things that I practice like, just like 1, 4, 5. So I take something like that and then I break it rhythmically. So I skip strings. Then I'll play a chromatic something into that. So I'm taking small things and connecting them to bigger things. Small phrase. Even just playing with 2 fingers. Sounds boring, but you displace it. So then the only thing is, what are the notes that you feel? And how I play is I play all the notes. When I practice all of them. And when I find something, I say, I really like that. Then I take that and make that part of my vocabulary. But it's a result of, just. It's kind of a very Coltrane-ish sort of approach, like on impressions, it's. These are just simple ideas. It's just that. But I'm mixing it up. I call it guitar Tetris, music Tetris. I'm mixing. This one goes that way. This one goes. This one goes. And then I mix them up and combine them. So I practice connecting those to other things. Chromatic things and bebop things. And modal things. So I practice all these things, and then I can literally sit right here and practice. Well, 2 weeks later, you hear, man, you do it effortlessly. That's what you think. I'm just like you. Like the odds are overwhelming for any musician that really does the work and has the passion that you can do it. The masters of the music, of this music, and this is all the masters I played with, all the masters, they played a lot. I'm not even talking practice a lot. They played a lot. And they listened and they got ideas. So listening and playing, but the connecting things is literally thinking like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then say, I'm going to connect that to, I'm going to say, 4 beats of chromatics and 4 beats of intervals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And then you play that. Combine it with the blues. So then it becomes my vocabulary. But, I would say take small things. Instead of learning long phrases, if you want to learn a long phrase, break it into 4 note sections and work on the 4 notes, and then connect it to the next 4 notes, and the next 4 notes. Then skip the middle 4 and take the first 4 and the third 4 and combine those and see what you get. Experiment. You got to have fun with it. Explore it. Just have fun. That's what I do. But it requires a lot of rinse and repeat. It requires a lot of time. But if you love it, time is nothing. You ever watch a movie you really love? It could be like a 3-hour movie and you love it. And it seems like, where did it go? You ever watch a movie that's a half an hour that's boring that you don't like at all? It seems like, oh my God, is this movie going to ever end? See, time is something that how it feels depends on you. When you're interested, time goes very fast. When you're not interested, time goes very slow. So that's why you want to practice things, get interested in what you're doing, and you'll have it. That make any sense? All right, good. I hope that's helpful. Any other questions? Before I talk, I want to talk about some general principles, but maybe one other question before I go into some overview stuff. Fernando.
Yeah. Did your I noticed that you use your 4th finger, but you use more your 3 fingers. Was that a natural thing, or that that was something that you plan ahead, or did you feel always comfortable using the 3 fingers more?
I practice playing with 3 fingers. I play with 4 and I play with 3, but they're different things. They feel differently. These 3 fingers are much stronger than the pinky, and they're anchored differently. The lines that are available to 3 are different than the things to 4. I find that 3, for a number of reasons, lends itself to better swing and jazz phrasing than 4, which sounds more mechanical-ish. It doesn't mean it's not good. 4, if you're playing straight 8ths, works really well. But 3, if I'm swinging the 3, and I just did some observation. I said, okay, many of the players that I really love to play guitar, Wes Montgomery used 3, and he played all the guitar in the world. George Benson uses 3, and he plays all of the guitar in the world and every other world. Grant Green swing you into bad health. He used 3 fingers. Now Kenny Burrell uses 4, but he uses 3 a lot too. So it just depends. It just depends. I don't think you should only use 3 or only use 4. I practice doing both, and I'm going to cover that. I'm going to talk about that. About 3. I also practice using 2, like Django. I practice that too. So the reason I do that is so that when I'm playing, I have choices. If I find myself in a certain place and I need to play the pinky to make music, make it connect, then I can do it. But if I don't, then I don't do it. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I practice that. I mean, I can play like that with, but most of the times I'll play. I use the 4th finger for directionalism, which I'll talk a little bit in a minute, but yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So let me give you some overview stuff, and this is some overview stuff no matter what your instrument is. If you play guitar, this is good for you too, but it's some overview stuff. So for me, when I teach jazz, when I listen to jazz, the things that I'm listening for and the things that all the great jazz artists have are 5 elements. There's 5 things that all great jazz musicians, no matter what time period they lived, no matter what their instrument was, there's 5 things that they all really work to develop. And these are the 5 things that I have made my whole study of in these 5 categories, okay? The first category is to have linear freedom, meaning the ability to express myself linearly, playing lines, playing melodies, playing linear patterns, to be free linearly to play around the instrument, to find the notes in the lines I want to play, and then to be able to play them. 2, harmonic freedom, to not be limited, like, F minor is F minor, but F minor is also G flat. Just change one note. It's also a B flat sus chord. You know, it's also an A flat triad. So I always try to think of chords as being at least 2 or 3 other chords. Every chord I play, my mind is already thinking, okay, if I'm playing F minor, that could be a D flat major 7, that could be a B flat sus chord, that could be a G flat. It could be, whatever it could be. It could be that, but I'm thinking that way. It could be A flat triad. So harmonic freedom to play whatever chord I want to play, to not be limited by a real book or what the chart says, to recognize that I can choose the chord I want to play. I can make it anything I want to make it. I'm free to choose the chord that sounds best to me and it fits the music the best. So you have linear freedom, harmonic freedom. Now, very importantly, rhythmic freedom. That means the ability to feel and play the time and to pick and choose, to play very syncopated, to play very straight, to swing it really hard, to not swing it, to have rhythmic freedom, to not get lost rhythmically. If I'm playing a song, I might play the wrong note, but I'm not going to play it in the wrong place. It might be the wrong note in the right place, but then the rhythm is going to be first. The right note in the wrong place is going to sound all right. The right note in the wrong place is always going to sound wrong. And there's only one secret when it comes to playing wrong notes and playing rhythmically wrong is this. If you play something that's wrong, the secret is don't play it too often. Meaning, like, if every time, you go like maybe no. But if you go, that's just a passing tone. It's only wrong if you go no. And if you don't do it, so if you don't play it too often, right? And if you don't play it too much. So if you play a note, it's not right. If you rhythmically fall out of the pocket for a minute, you fall out of the rhythm for a minute, no big deal. You get right back on. But if you keep falling out, then it's a problem. So linear freedom, harmonic freedom, rhythmic freedom, dynamic freedom. This is something that is very rare in this current generation of guitar players. That is where the idea is not to play everything even. The idea is to not play everything even. The idea is to play the way you speak. I do not talk to everybody the same way in the same volume every time when I talk, because think how this would sound if I gave the whole master class like this. It would be very boring. You would be tired of it. No human being talks like that. No animal speaks like that. Only computers speak like that. And they try to not speak like that. So why would I play music like that? There's a difference. If I go, I want some notes to be louder, some notes to be quieter. I'm talking. I'm communicating. I'm not trying to play. And there's lots of great younger players, who play that way and play great stuff. But I always listen to it and I think, like, it doesn't touch my heart so much. It's great, but they're talking at me. They're not talking to me. I want conversation. I want the dynamics. I want a breath. I want a space. I want something to be louder and something to be softer. So dynamic freedom, linear freedom, harmonic freedom, rhythmic freedom, dynamic freedom. Listen to the masters of bebop. Listen to Coltrane. Listen to Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker. The phrases are it's this. The dynamics has its own arc to it. It's not just the notes. It's this dynamic arc. Okay. And the fifth piece, tonal freedom. So everything doesn't sound the same. You don't have to switch guitars Most of the time, on 90% of the performances I've ever done, I set the tone on the guitar and then I change the tone. I'm the tone switch, not the guitar. I can go from this. I'm the tone guy. I'm the tone switch. People that are like fumbling with fumbling with the tone, and if only I could get the new D'Angelico, then I would have it. Oh, if I got a Benedetto like Rodney, then I'd have it. Oh man, I can't wait. I'm gonna get that Gibson L5, and then I'll have it. You won't have it. Those are nice guitars, but the tone is in your heart and your ear. The tone is not on the instrument. I've heard George Benson play 15 different guitars, and all of them sound like George Benson. All of them. I've seen Kenny Burrell play 3 or 4 different guitars, and it sounds like Kenny Burrell, 100%. I've seen Barney Kessel play 10 different guitars, and they all sound like Barney Kessel. And also, having the same tone is like wearing the same clothes you wore when you were 10. You don't want to keep wearing the same clothes. Just, oh, this is my sound. Well, how long have you been playing that way? 10 years. Why? Didn't you grow as a human being? Don't you feel something different now? You talk the same way you did 10 years ago? Now, once you're a grown-up, fully formed a musician, you say, I have found myself in the music. Here's how I feel. So then Bill Evans says, this is how I feel about the piano. This is how I feel about it. But he made that decision after playing bebop and playing classical and playing with countless musicians. Then he said, and now this is me. Coltrane, the same thing. So it's okay to play one way after you've explored the ocean. And then you say, you know what? I've been all over the world, but I want to live in Puerto Rico. Why? Because it's the most beautiful place in the world. That's why I want to live there. That's okay. But to say, I want to live in Puerto Rico, it's the most beautiful place, and say, well, have you been anywhere else? No. How do you know? You ever been to Hawaii? Maybe you like it better, maybe you don't, but you don't know if you haven't been there, or at least if you haven't studied about it. So I don't know if that answered your question. I see some questions here in the chat. How to develop, did that answer your question? All right, never mind. How to develop less tension and anxiety when improvising or sight reading. Breathing, left hand, right hand, playing position. Okay. Well, sight read, the way to eliminate anxiety is to be proficient at what you're doing. If you practice so you can sight read well, then when you have to sight read, you're not having any anxiety about it because you can do it. Do any of us have anxiety when we ride a bicycle? We don't. Why? Because we know we can do it. We don't have any anxiety when we're eating our food. I wonder if I can chew this. We know we can. We know how to use a telephone. Most of us can drive a car. But imagine if you didn't really practice driving a car, you'd feel like, oh no, I gotta go from San Juan to Bayamon. What am I gonna do? But if you've driven that road before, you know how to drive a car, you're not worried about that. So generally speaking, the more you get comfortable doing, the more you relax into something by repetition, then you can relax. You don't have anxiety. Is fear of the future. Regret is fear of the past. When you're competent, you're in the present moment and you don't have any of those things because you know you can do it. You do your best. You know you've done the work to do it. I was watching Steph Curry, the basketball player with the Golden State Warriors, one of the great shooters of all time. He takes these amazing shots, like half-court shots and amazing basketball shots. But then you talk to him, you hear him interviewed. He's like, yeah, I practice 300 of those before I ever show up to the game. Yeah, he's confident when he shoots it because he's practiced that. So, yeah, that minor blues, I've played that 500 times before I played it for you today. So do I have any doubt I can play the minor blues? I have no doubt of that. Some days it's better, some days not so better. So linear freedom, harmonic freedom, rhythmic freedom, dynamic freedom, and tonal freedom. To be willing to change the sound, how you articulate. Do you play everything legato? Do you play everything alternate, picking? Is everything staccato? Don't some things feel better one way and some things feel better another way? Why not play how the music sounds best? Why limit the music by you can only pick one way? Why not let the music tell you how you should play it and play it that way? When I play, I'm using combinations of, that's alternate. Then I'll use hammer-ons and pull-offs, legato. Then I'll articulate everything. Then I'll sweep. Legato, articulate. Why? Because this line here doesn't sound good picked. It sounds good like this. That's how it sounds good. So I have tried to develop my technique around the things I want to play. So those are the 5 basic areas. Now, in terms of learning jazz and becoming proficient, you have to be proficient in the forms of jazz. So the most important form to be proficient of course, is the blues. You've got to be able to play the blues to play jazz really well, in my opinion. Unless you're playing everything as a sus chord, then if you're playing that style of jazz and everything is an altered, major 7 sharp 5 to D sus, if you're playing like, maybe you don't have to play the blues in that. But if you're playing anything from the bebop, post-bop tradition and American popular song, you need to be able to be versed in the blues. Okay. The second form, you want to be versed in rhythm changes. Not that you're going to play it a lot, because you're probably not going to play it a lot, other than in an educational situation or maybe a jam session. But rhythm changes teach you some very specific lessons, combining using 2 5s on the bridge, as well as playing blues things, but blues over moving changes instead of just, you're playing. So you learn certain ways to play for that. So it's part of learning the vocabulary of jazz to apply it on rhythm changes. Then you want to learn 32 bar standard types of tunes. Jazz standards. They don't have to be exactly 32 bars, but jazz standard tunes like Misty, Darn That Dream, Stella by Starlight, Green Dolphin Street, I'll Remember April. Tunes like that. Lover, Star Eyes, Janine, tunes that are, that have this kind of 32 bar type of feeling. Because most of your life, if you're playing jazz with other people, that's the language that people are speaking. They're speaking the language of standards. And that's where you learn the vocabulary, however you want to play it. The next thing you want to learn is you want to learn modal tunes. Things like So What and impressions, let's see. So, sorry about that. Modal tunes. Okay. The last type of thing you want to learn is free jazz. Okay. It's called free jazz because most people wouldn't pay any money to hear it. It's not tonal. It's like whatever. Musicians playing for themselves. No form, no structure. We're just going to play free. Nobody is actually paying money to listen to that. I got news for you. That's why it's free jazz, because no one's paying for that, to hear that. That's my little joke there. This is my joke, little joke. But yeah, you want to be able to play unstructured, where you say, let's just play, and just play. So those are the forms. In terms of rhythms, as a guitar player, I'll just be guitar specific for a minute. For guitar players, you want to, there's some basics for guitar that, which you want to know how to accompany comp. And there's some basic rhythms. You need to know the Freddie Green style. You need to learn Charleston feel. You need to learn a triplet feel. You need to learn a shout course feel. And then you need to know how to play the rhythm of the melody. So if you're playing, if the melody's like, so sorry. I'm just coming. You don't have to play the whole melody, but if you can get pieces of the melody rhythmically, the reason it's the melody is because it's a strong combination harmonically and melodically and rhythmically. So if you play a piece of the melody, you'll always be right. And if you listen to big band arranging, if you listen to Thad Jones and Mel Lewis and Duke Ellington and Count Basie, and Billy May Orchestra and Nelson Riddle behind Frank Sinatra, you're going to hear this thing I'm talking about, how they're playing pieces of the melody as rhythms behind the soloist or behind the melody. It's very, very effective. And I listen to a lot of big band music to know how to comp. Now, I see there was a question about playing with piano. And this is a great question. It's something that Chico Hamilton, the great jazz drummer, told me about when I first joined his group. And he said this. He said, very important for piano and guitar not to get in each other's way. And it's easy to do. And here's the secret of it. He said, do the opposite. If the piano is playing a lot, then you play a little. If the piano is playing very rhythmic, then you play long. If the piano's in the lower register, you play high. Piano's in a higher register, you play low. Piano players playing dense chords, you play single notes. Piano players playing single notes, you play dense chords. That's the easy formula. Do the opposite. So you're not in each other's rhythmic space, and you're not in each other's tonal harmonic space because you're in different registers. And here's the simple thing he said. He said, and how about just having a conversation? How about saying to the piano player, hey, what would you like to do? And maybe you'll say, hey, well, we could comp together, and then maybe, I know this saxophone player, he really likes piano behind him. You say, oh, yeah, but the trumpet player likes guitar. Like Dizzy Gillespie liked guitar behind him more than piano. That's why he had guitars in his band. So if you know that and it's Dizzy's time to solo, let the guitar comp, or you could say switch. But all this depends on if you as a guitar player can comp. You can comp the chords. It all depends on, can you actually do that? Because if you can't, then you can't. So So all that depends on if you can come. Keep this in mind. When I started playing with Dizzy Gillespie, I just turned 19 years old. Just turned 19. How could a 19-year-old kid play with Dizzy, the guy that invented bebop? What in the world was he thinking? And what was I thinking? I'm going to tell you. Dizzy didn't hire me because I was a great soloist. I could play okay, but that's not why he hired me. He hired me because when I played behind him, it felt good. That's why. No one wants to hire or play with someone that doesn't feel good to play with. None of us do. You're going to play with somebody that doesn't feel good? Nobody is. So, you know. So Dizzy solo, he says, let's play blues. Here's what I can play. He hired me because when it was time for him to solo, it felt good. How long do you think I would have stayed in his band if it felt bad to play when I'm playing? 1 week, maybe. I was with him 3 years. And not because I was a great soloist. It's because I could groove. I could swing. And if I only knew 5 things, I could swing those 5 things. I could make those 5 things groove. This is why the rhythm and the time is so important. You got to feel good. No one wants to play with you if you don't feel good to play with. No one wants to play a solo if what you're playing doesn't feel good. No one who wants to play. This is a nice thing about Kenny Kirkland, a great piano player, genius player, soloist. But when he comped, he made everybody sound better. He could play. When he comped for me, I played better. Amazing. That's not true of every great piano player. You'll hear tonight on this video, this performance, you're going to see me play with the quartet with Carl Allen and Lonnie Plaxico and a young pianist named Dabin Ryu. She is 26 years old. But when you hear her play, she feels so good to play guitar with. It's unbelievable. She's got this thing when you're playing, it just feels good. So when I think of all the piano players I know, why do I call her? Because it feels good to play. I like to solo when she's playing. She plays great. She's a great soloist and all that. But I hired her because I enjoy playing with what she's playing. That's why. What was that question? Put that back in the chat room. Could you describe the rhythmic characteristics that you think a good interpretation of blues should have? I mean, it's got to be connected to what you really feel, first of all. You know, it's the combination of learning the basics, the blues scale and the minor pentatonic scale, with riffs and ideas that you really feel and believe in. When I play blues, they're really connected to my life experience. I feel them like I'm living them. I'm not faking the blues. And if you're a human being, you've had it. Everyone that's human has been sick, had someone they love be sick, suffered loss, success, failures. We've all, if you're human, you have the blues. You get up in the morning, oh, that's the blues. The blues can also be happy. The blues can also be reflective. So, you know, when I play this, And when I play this, but all that other language is rooted in this. Think of it as being like someone cloned Grant Green and John Coltrane together. That's what I love. I love Grant Green's feeling and Coltrane's exploration. So I think the most important thing with playing the blues is listening enough. Listen to Jimmy Smith, the organist. Listen to Grant Green. Listen to B.B. King, Albert Collins, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Johnny Winter, Derek Trucks. Listen to the blues. Barney Kessel. No one played blues like Barney Kessel. Come on. Listen to Wes play the blues. Killing it. So listen, get that in your heart and your spirit where you feel like, man, I really feel when I play it. And it just starts with vocabulary. So first you start with like, minor pentatonic, right? But then you combine with that with licks and phrases that you believe, like, that's a statement. I'm telling you how I feel. That's the way I feel. I mean that. And then play some blues heads next time you see me. I'm hearing chords. But that freedom is a result of rinse and repeat, finding riffs and ideas that are anchors, things I really love. When I play this, everything is right in the world to me. Like, that's real. You got to find those things. It might be 4 or 5 or 10 of those things you say, when I play that thing, if you play it and it feels so deep in your heart that, like, man, keep that. That's you telling you that's how you feel. Keep that then. And then build around that. Use that as an anchor to anchor your playing in things you love. Make sense? Any questions about what I'm sharing so far? I'm doing a lot of talking. I want to answer all your questions. It could be about anything. I can't see how many people were in here, but there's got to be a bunch of you guys.
I have a question. How can we improve the swing and time feel and when playing?
Good
I don't know
question.
if
the answer that what I did, I mean, in the old days, you could get your time feel together because you could play enough and work enough with a great drummer that you grew up playing with someone whose time was so good that you didn't know any other way. If you grow up playing with someone who's great, you grow up playing and, Eric Harlan is your drummer, you're going to be good. Carl Allen is in your band as a teenager, you're good. Your time feel is going to be perfect. But for us today, that's not something that's realistic. Most of us, particularly during a pandemic, we have to spend more time alone, more time with recordings and play along things and metronomes. So I use the metronome, and I use the metronome with the metronome on 1 and 3, and the metronome on 2 and 4, and then the metronome only on 4. You know what I mean? I'll demonstrate. Let's see if I can pull up my metronome real quick here. Metronome. Here's the metronome. Okay. Hello, metronome. There it is. Okay. So, for example, por ejemplo, impressed? Let's see. It's not wanting to play them. All right, I'm gonna play it off my phone because it's not playing off of my iPad here. Got all these devices and oh, there, now it just popped up. Okay, let's see. Slow it down. So so we'll get rid of the accent thing. Let's see if I can get rid of the accent. But don't worry about the accent for now. So I play this, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then turn it around and make the metronome 2 and 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you make it quarter notes. And then you make it that's 2 and 4. You get the idea? Most importantly is to do the metronome on 1 and 3 and 2 and 4 and quarter notes. And then rinse and repeat that. You know, and then practice playing on the ands, you know. You're comping, you know. So it's like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's the R&B feeling that came into jazz, you know. So that's how I practice the rhythm. The worst thing to do is to practice with a track that doesn't feel good. If you're trying to get your time together and you're practicing with the iReal book or Band in a Box, it's probably not going to happen for you because those things do not have good drum tracks. There are better drum tracks available, better things to practice with. I don't get paid any money for it, but if you want to practice to a drum track, get Drum Genius on your iPhone. I think it's for Android too. That has good usable stuff. There's also another thing called Jazz Drummer. You're better off even playing the Jamie Abersol tracks. But to play with the drums that are in iReal and Band in the Box, for me, don't really do it. You know, alone. Just so you know, if you're playing, if you're learning a tune, that's okay. But you don't want to practice. You know, you don't want to practice something that's not the best you could practice to. Any other questions? Hi, Rodney. Can you tell us about your right hand, please? I'm impressed with your picking techniques. Well, thank you, John. I appreciate it. I use a variation of a George Benson type of approach in my right hand. It's not exactly like what George Benson does, because no one can do what George Benson does. Period. The end. Not any human being alive that I know can play the things he plays the way he plays them with that degree of clarity and execution. I don't know anyone that can do it, and I know everybody. So those of you that think you can do it, you can't. Okay. So I have said, but you can do you, and you can learn from that, you know, and do you at that level. I mean, I think they're great players. You know, look, Alan Holdsworth played legato like it's otherworldly. It's not even a guitar. Like, what is that he's doing? What is that even? You know, I think Kurt Rosenwinkel plays beautiful legato things. Pat Metheny too. You know, Schofield too. You know, Pat Martino, great articulation, but it's not George Benson's articulation. It's not that degree of proficiency. It's just not. So to work on the right hand, I mean, you know, to give you the quick picking thing, and all these, you know, see, this is all the stuff I go into depth in all my courses that I teach, because this is important stuff. But I'm gonna give you the quick overview. You know, there's 5 ways of picking, right? So the first way of picking is to play alternate. You know, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. What's the pro of that? Well, it's consistent. There's nothing to really think about. You know, you're going to play whatever you play, down, up, down, up, down, up. What's the downside of that? It sounds like down, up, down, up, down, up all the time. It sounds very even. It doesn't really swing as hard. It doesn't have as much room for dynamics, generally speaking, and it's not as expressive. So then you have legato picking, you know, playing like, you know, like it's great. I mean, the pro is not that hard to do, because you don't have to pick that many notes. So you don't have to do as much work to play that way, because you don't have to pick as many notes. And it feels good. It can swing. It feels good. I like it. It's a pro of it. The con of it, I get tired of that sound. It's boring to me after a while. You know, for me, if it's your signature sound, like, it's not boring when I hear Pat Metheny do it, but that's his sound. For me, when I do it, it's boring to me. It's not my sound. So, you know, the con of it is it's sometimes some things want to be really articulated. And if you're not ever articulating, there's certain things you can't play. How do you accommodate something like, if you can only go, I can't even do it. You know, it's like some things want to be spoken clearly. I mean, you don't want to talk to you like this. I can talk like this, and you know, I can say all this stuff like this, but you know, this is sort of not articulating it. I'm not articulating my word. I'm just talking like this, you know. So it's cool, you know. I guess it has a vibe to it, and all, but you know. So I'm not articulating my words. You don't understand what I'm saying so much. It can feel all right, but you want to hear me speak like this. So most of us have a combination where I'm talking like this, and sometimes I'm like, you know, sometimes, man, you know, sometimes it's not, you know, but it is like that, you know, where you hear the combination. You hear this, and you hear, and they both work together. Okay, so you have alternate picking, legato picking. You have sweep picking. You know, it's very quick. Pro, it's very fast. Very great for scales. Very poor for jazz vocabulary, because it doesn't lend itself to rhythm. And if you're playing jazz and you're not playing rhythm, well, it's like saying, what do you think of frozen food? If there's nothing else, I'll eat it, but you know, like that. Okay. So you have the sweep picking, alternate, legato, sweep. Then you have the what's called economy picking, or modified economy picking, I call it, which is a George Benson method, which is, generally speaking, it's directional picking. Meaning if you can make 2 consecutive downstrokes in a row, you do it. And generally speaking, it's alternate back. So this way, you're down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down. But coming the other way, it's down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Or it could be up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So in this motion, from the low string to the high string, you're playing directionally. If you can play, and you see that on 3 notes to a string, right? If you play down, up, down, you're already in position to make the next downstroke. So down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, like that. But coming back the other way, it's down. And that's how George Benson picks most of the time. That's just the nutshell, big picture of what's going on. It's way more than that, but that's the big picture of it, you know. Swings really hard. I don't know the downside to it. The only downside is why I pick the 5th way, right? Because we have alternate, legato, you have sweep picking, and you have modified economy picking, which is sweeping one way and alternating back. And then the way I play, which is combining all of those. So sometimes I'll play legato, you know. Sometimes I'll play articulated. It's alternating. Sometimes I'll sweep it. And sometimes I'll. So I'm not saying that that's the greatest way to pick or anything like that, but it's the greatest way for me to pick because it gives me the most range. For example, how I would articulate a Charlie Parker line would be different than how I would articulate something McCoy Tyner played. They are inflected differently. They're articulated differently. I wouldn't pick it the same way. I wouldn't pick something that John Coltrane is playing the same way I would pick something Paul Desmond is playing. They're different things. So if I want to be able to, the thing is, I always, and I said this at the beginning, you know, I ask myself, how do these notes want to be played? What is the way that they feel and sound the best to me? And then whatever that is, then I try to pick it that way. So as a result, I have learned to pick these 5 different ways: the hybridized way, you know, alternate, economy, sweep, and hybrid, as well as the combining those 4, because that allows me the greatest range of expression depending on what I'm playing. So I don't play everything the same way. And, you know, also sometimes you're playing slow, you want to play all downstrokes. You know, and that's not even counting, you know, sometimes you can start with an upstroke, start with a downstroke. That's a whole other world. But that's sort of the overview of the picking thing. So you got to do some work becoming proficient. Check out how George Benson plays. Check out how Kurt Rosenwinkel and Pat Metheny and John Schofield play. Check out what Pat Martino does. You know, check out what somebody like Frank Gambale does, you know, and then check out me, what I do. And you'll see a combination of those. And then take whatever works for you. You know, none of us know it all. We're all trying to do our best and learn how we feel. So that's good. Thanks, Rodney. Some tips for internalizing chord changes, tune, so you don't get lost improvising. Be able to know the melody in your head is the most important thing. If you know the melody in your head, you're not going to get lost because the melody is driving where the chords are. So even if you don't play the melody, if you know where it is, if you can hear the melody of the tune, and you know, like when I'm playing tunes like so if I don't play the melody, I know where the melody is. But all of that, I'm hearing the melody in my head. You know, anytime I want to like know where I am, I know where the melody is. The melody is telling me where the time is. It's telling me what the actual chord that is part of the song is. Like I said, if you want to jump off a cliff, you have to know what the cliff is. So I have to know what the chord is before I don't play it. If I just wild out and don't play it, then we're in that free jazz category. No one wants to hear that. No one's going to pay anything to hear that. So I have to know what the chord should be and then play that chord or hear that chord. And then I can play off of that because I'm hearing what it actually is. I'm hearing what the melody note is, and I'm choosing not to play it, but it's an informed choice based on knowing what it is. It's not a like, oh, I don't really learn the melodies to tune like I learn the chords and then solo. Well, then you don't really know the song. You know, and one could even say learning the lyrics. Did that answer that question? How have you cultivated such a genuine and real relationship with music? Your performances transcend sonorities and move people who listen to you. Well, thank you. That is the highest. I mean, I think the answer to that, Paola, is, you know, I show up for real. You know, there's no socially distancing because of a pandemic. We're physically apart. We're not socially apart. This is as social as it gets. There's nothing different about this than if I'm there and we're shaking hands. The same person, essentially. It's the same. I was on a stage talking to you. It's the same. I don't see any difference in terms of how I feel towards the people I play for. And I'm always trying to play something that I think that someone that's listening to my music is giving me some time from their life they're never going to get back. They give me 40 minutes, they listen to me play for 40 minutes. I gave you an example. You guys have been in this master class for 90 minutes. Here's the news. You're never going to get these 90 minutes back. Ever. So, was it something of value? Did it matter? Did it help you take a step? Did it help you in some way grow? Did it mean something to you? I'm always trying to offer value for what I'm sharing. And I don't ever fake it or just phone it in. I'm really there. For real. I'm really here with you. For real. There's nowhere else I want to be. Nothing else I'm thinking about. I'm right here with you. And I think people can feel it. They can feel when a person is genuine and authentic. So I'm always trying to find things that are speaking, that are communicating. Now, it doesn't mean I don't play things that are, artistically explore, lots of adventurous and beyond what most people can hear. I do. But I try to build a bridge, and I try to help a person understand, why would you want to go on this trip with me, even if you don't know where we're going? Maybe there's some good sights, and I'll play some things that are familiar so you can, I really always want to communicate something that's real and genuine and be connected to my intention. My intention, when I play music, my intention is to share love first and foremost, to actually express through music that I care about you, and to express through music that I know the feeling of love. I know the feeling of genuinely what it is to be a human being. Your story matters. My story matters. Every one of us has been born. Every one of us has a road we're taking. We've had challenges. We've crossed bridges. We've burned bridges. We've had friends we've lost and friends we've gained. We all have successes and failures. That's what we have in common. When I can express that common humanity through the music I play, you have a connection. People don't care what you know till they know that you care. When people can feel that you're there for them, you can play anything you want. If they know you're really playing for them, play anything. But if they think you're just playing at them, then everything you play is just playing at them. That's my sauce for communicating. I don't know if I said it particularly well, but I really believe that each of you, your story matters. The things you do matter. The notes you play matter. And that that you have something to share. There are people you'll play your music with that will never hear me play. They're only going to hear you. What are you giving them? Are you feeding them food? Are you giving them something that's nutritious, or is it just showing off because you can play fast or you can play a lot of notes? That's not what the great masters that I admire in the music do, and that I admire in anything that do that. It doesn't mean it has to be all thought out. It's not a mental thing. It's just a way of living. You know, if you wake up and you say, you know, my story matters today, and so does everyone else's, then when you go out into the world, it's a different world, because everyone you look at, they matter. That's how I look at it. How important is spirituality for you in creating and performing music? Well, thank you, Paula. I mean, it's very important. It's, you know, it is, you know, I really admire John Coltrane because he played with intention. He played because he believed something he wanted to share, something he wanted to say, something he wanted to convey. He wanted the music to not just come from him, but to come through him. And I try to do that. You know, I try to enter that space where the music is flowing through me. So when you say spirituality, I don't put much weight on what you believe. I put weight on, do you believe? You know, I'm with you. If you believe in love, then we're on the same, we believe the same thing. Your particular religion and how you view it, or don't have any religion at all, but you practice love, we're family then. So I think love is a verb. Love is what you do. Love is not what you say. I know what you believe spiritually by what you do, not by what you say. You can say anything, but if you don't live it, then I don't know that you really believe that. You know? Can you talk about ear training, how to practice and become better at it in order to apply it in a live situation? Ear training mostly is to listen. You know, the best ear training is to listen to masters who played this music. Listen to Kind of Blue 100 times. Listen to that album. That's Kind of Blue 100 times. And listen to Blue and Green. And just listen at what Bill Evans plays. And the next time, listen and just listen to the bass. And then listen to just what Miles plays. And listen to Train. Then listen to all of them. Listen to what Jimmy Cobb plays. You know, go deep. You know, we're always faced with the challenge of either can go deep into something or go wide into something. But most of the stuff you get when you go wide is on the surface. The treasures in the ocean are down below the waves. You got to go down. The treasures in the earth. You want to find diamonds, you got to drill down. You don't find diamonds just by always taking a rake and going like this across your yard. You're not going to find it there in most cases. You have to drill down to get to the stuff that's there. So that requires being willing to go deep into something. You know, Miles Davis's quintet, they played the same tunes every night for 5 years. Dizzy Gillespie, when I was in this band, we played the same stuff for 3 years, the same tunes. But every night was different. He drilled down. Every night we discovered new things. There were things I didn't know about 19 till I had played it 100 times. And then I was like, oh, I played it 100 times and now I get it. That thing? You mean instead of it being an E flat 9? I mean, I could play it as a B minor 13th over E flat. I mean, I could. But it taken me 100 times till it occurred to me, like, dude. But if I just said like, oh, I know it. Next tune. It required me to show up for real and play it for real and say, what are you going to show me tonight, tune? What am I going to find? Maybe I'm going to gain strength. Maybe it's going to be discipline. Maybe it's going to be patience. Maybe it's going to be focus. Maybe I'm going to hear the blues in it. Maybe I'm going to hear modal things. Or maybe I'm going to find B flat minor 13th over E flat. Be like, whoa, wait a minute. Well, that's kind of an A7. And then when I mentioned to Dizzy, hey, Dizzy, you know, B flat minor 13th over E flat. He's like, yeah. My big discovery, Dizzy's like, yeah. Dizzy, you ever try French fries? Yeah. Like that. Yeah, concert I'm presenting today. Okay. So this is you know, I'm so happy to present this music. It is a choice of music that has everything from John Coltrane to feeling. And, you know, there's two original tunes, but you have also blues in a West Montgomery tradition. You have a Grant Green type of thing. I play blues minor, like a Coltrane tune, you know, where he really goes in on blues minor, you know, and I do my version of going in, you know. I play a beautiful ballad called Darn That Dream, you know. And I'm playing with, you know, Lonnie Plaxico is a master of the acoustic bass. He played with everybody, you know, including Art Blakey and everyone else, you know. He's world class. Carl Allen, you know, the very words instill fear in the hearts of drummers, you know, because he's such a master of both drums and of music education. He just has the golden touch, you know. And Dabin Rue is just like, you know, brilliant, young, open harmonically, open rhythmically, this beautiful soul that just plays this music that's, you know, incredible. And then there's me, you know, who's floating on that and guiding that and leading that. And it's a beautiful concert. I'm so happy to share it. It swings. It's from the heart. It's real. It's truth. There's no playing music just to play it. There's no playing stuff because we could. There's no playing to show off. It is as genuine as if you came and sat in my living room and we played for you. It's that. It is literally that. It's sharing that love I'm talking about. The only thing about it that I don't like, there's only one thing I know, is, you know, because of pandemic, we're wearing the masks. And so visually, you know, it looks like we're playing it in a non-disclosed location on Mars. We're on Mars. We're ready to play the song Earth. Here we are at Mars. We're now going to play a song, you know, because it has the mask look. So that's the thing that, you know, was not fun. But the music, you know, I think it speaks for itself. I'm very proud of what we did. I'm grateful to Fidel Morales, the great master drummer himself, who invited me to be a part of this, and to Fernando Matina, my brother, on the guitar. You know, family is where you find them, and in those two gentlemen, I found family. You know, people that love music, that love teaching and sharing with students, and are doing it for all the right reasons. That's why I'm here. I'm here, you know, to share that love, to share that information. And I'm here because two maestros that I admire and respect invited me to be here. That's what we're doing tonight.
Rodney, it has been a pleasure to have you here at the festival, and thank you very much for sharing your experience with us and for your commitment to the education and students. Gente, un placer tener a este gran maestro aquí. Fernando, gracias, maestro. Gracias mil por tu apoyo. Un aplauso que se sienta.
Gracias.
No nos podemos perder el concierto de maestro. Ya yo lo vi, ¿ok? No se lo digan a nadie, pero ya yo lo vi y está buenísimo.
Uno más. The performance tonight,
yeah,
I'm going to watch too. So if you have questions or things while it's going,
great,
make your comments.
Please.
And I'll respond like, oh, you like that or you didn't like that. If you didn't like it, I'm going to block you. But no, I like that. And I would say, oh, thank you. And you know, what were you thinking? I'll talk about that.
A small secret. Ronnie speaks Spanish, you know? Okay? A little Spanish.
Yo puedo hablar un poquito de español, pero se me olvidó mucho de las palabras porque yo no tengo mucha oportunidad de hablar. That's the best I can say.
Eso, that's it. Oh. Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Muchachos, gracias mil. Nos vemos después. A las 7 nos vemos. Take care.